Hi, today I'm going to share with you about the conduct of the plaintiff in a specific performance suit. Now, what is a specific performance suit? I've made a video in detail about what specific performance of agreement of sale is all about. Kindly go through that video. Now, what is the conduct of the plaintiff in a specific performance suit for getting a decree in the specific performance suit is what I'm going to share with you today. Whenever an agreement of sale is entered between buyer and seller, if either the buyer or the seller defaults, buyer can default in paying the balance sale consideration, seller can default for not coming to the sub-registrar's office to register the property. Either way, a prayer is asked, prayer is made to the court to compel the buyer or the seller to perform the agreement, which is called specific performance of agreement, and the decree that is prayed for being granted is called the decree for specific performance of agreement of sale, and the suit will be called the suit for specific performance of agreement of sale. Now, Supreme Court in a recent decision made a categorical observation that the conduct of the plaintiff is very important in granting a decree for specific performance suit. Now, who could be plaintiff here? Invariably, most often, the plaintiff is always the buyer. Very rarely, plaintiff is the seller. So, why plaintiff is the buyer? Because seller defaults or seller doesn't come forward to register the property. Therefore, plaintiff is at a loss. So, plaintiff goes to the court and files a suit. Because plaintiff's investment in the suit is very less and defendant's investment is more. I mean to say, in other words, the buyer's investment in the case is very less and the seller's investment in the case is much more. Therefore, seller rarely comes to court for filing suit for specific performance. So, what is the conduct of the plaintiff? Conduct of the buyer. What should be the conduct of the buyer in asking for a decree for specific performance? First and primary thing buyer must do is he has to be very bona fide. Now, his behavior has to be very bona fide. How his behavior will be bona fide will be based on the promise he makes in executing the agreement of sale. Whenever the buyer comes to court, court observes the bona fides of the buyer rather than the seller. Whether buyer tried to keep up his promise or not in paying the balance sale consideration. Whether the buyer, when he comes to know that seller is not coming forward to register the property, even though he is ready with the money, even though he is ready with the stamp papers, even though he is ready at the sub-registrar's office, the seller is not responding. This circumstance will be categorically observed in the court. In fact, there will be an issue on this. That in the language of the law, it is called the willingness and the readiness to perform the agreement. There will be a clear-cut question in the court about this issue. So therefore, he may be ready, but he may not be willing. He may be willing, but he may not be ready. Court will categorically observe that whether he is ready and willing to perform the agreement. So bona fides of the buyer are categorically observed in granting a decree for specific performance of agreement of sale. So the bona fides in performing the agreement, there could be any condition in the agreement, but prima facie, it will be a burden on the buyer to perform the agreement in a bona fide way. Please remember this. If there is any mistake on the part of the buyer in performing the agreement, delay in making the balance payment or informing the seller about his default when he is not coming forward to register the property, not making adequate readiness and willingness of the balance amount, not buying the stamp papers, not showing his availability at the sub-registrar's office. All these factors come into play when court grants a decree of specific performance to the buyer. So the sum and substance of this video is the bona fides of the buyer are very much observed when granting a suit for when granting a decree in a suit for specific performance of agreement of sale. Hope I am clear. Thank you. Thanks for watching. If you have any doubts, kindly comment.